Hello and welcome back to the Love Queendom. Today is Wednesday, October 4th, 2023. And today I'm going to be doing part 4 of my twin flame journey. So if you haven't listened to parts 0 to 3, make sure you go and do that before you listen to this episode. And in part 4, I'm going to be talking about the events that unfolded immediately after the separation between my twin and I had taken place, everything that I was going through during that time, and, just kind of some of my thoughts as well on what was happening and stuff like that. So I'm going to talk about, the separation pain I was going through, my healing journey, integrating all of the things that I was learning and kind of the knowings and the downloads, you might call them, that I was receiving during this time. And also, my thoughts about a concept that I've come across on my twin flame journey about alien love bite, okay? And whether or not I believe that this is a real thing, if this is something that I personally believe that I experienced. So these are all the things that I'm going to get into on this episode. And there is more to come in future episodes where I will speak more about my twin, his karmics. I'm also going to talk about my experience with tarot on my twin flame journey as well. So there's more to come. So before I dive into it though, if you're new here, welcome. This is a space of love and joy and peace and abundance and all the good things, okay? And here at the Love Queendom, we talk about spiritual ascension and how to create your own reality. So let's dive in to part 4 of my twin flame journey, okay? So where I ended off in part 3 was basically that my twin and I, after dating on and off in our, matrix dating and honeymoon phase, we had some period of separation. We came back together trying to have a relationship with each other, but things just weren't working and everything just felt really off and really bad. And I had some dreams that kind of were like premonitions about what was going on, where my twin was with someone else, and I dreamt that if I had any interactions with him while he was with this other person, that I would get hurt because he would choose that other person over me. And despite having that dream and despite how terrible everything felt, while we were trying to see each other, I was still like almost not able to pull myself out of the experience and just went along with it, hopefully believing that everything would work out and, this other person would go away and we would be able to materialize our happy ending together. And during the time that we were seeing each other, I did have other dreams that were more positive about us getting married and having kids and having this happy ending. And I was also, on my spiritual journey of diving deeper into manifestation and learning about that. So I really believed that I could manifest this end with my twin. And so unfortunately, what ended up happening was that, my bad dream came true, and my twin did end up deciding to leave me to be with the karmic, because essentially she caught wind of the fact that I was in the picture. And so she ejected herself from him, and that sort of destabilized him. And I think he wasn't really expecting to maybe be affected by it, or I don't really know. But really, when I go deeper into my twin and his relationship with his karmic partner, this particular karmic, it will make a little bit more sense. Essentially, he had a lot deeper attachments to her than maybe he was aware of. And so her pulling away from him destabilized him. And so he basically chose to save himself and chase after her, abandoning me in the process, even though that was not his intention. So this is kind of where we are now in part 4 of my journey. Okay. And so just to give you guys sort of some timelines on, where things were and how things happened. So I think I've discussed this previously. I met my twin towards the end of 2017, like November 2017. I met my twin. We didn't start dating officially until the beginning of 2018. We dated on and off in our matrix dating and honeymoon phase from 2018 until, let's say, the summer of 2019. And then from that point, we had broken up, but there wasn't any like ill will between us. It was kind of just like, okay, I'm moving on with my life now to find my person. I don't really care about you, but we both did express that we really loved each other and that, maybe in the future we could still try to work things out, right? And so that was always on the table, but it wasn't something that I was actually waiting for or thinking, let me give him some time. I wasn't thinking like that at all at that time. So, a series of negative events had unfolded in my life, which I believe were due to me taking on low energies from my twin, sexual energy transfers from him. And that pulled me into a more dense reality, which started shifting things around me. And so we were in separation from the end of 2019, basically until, let's say, May of 2021. And May of 2021 until around August, September of that same year, we were seeing each other while he was also with the karmic, trying to reconcile things and manifest a happy ending for us, which didn't end up working out. And then, the separation happened around the ending of this period. So August, September, let's say September of 2021, things ended officially, where he basically, cut me off saying that, he really likes her and it's complicating things. And so we need to stop seeing each other. So that happened. And then my healing and integrating and all of the things that I'm going to be talking about in this episode are basically from like October of 2021. The bulk of this is October 2021 until June 2023. Okay, this is really the bulk of my healing period. So you can see that is a good almost 2 years of needing to heal from what had happened. Okay. And I think, I could say like even to present day, which again, we're in October of 2023, I still consistently do the practices that have helped me to get myself to where I am now in order to maintain myself in this energy. Okay. But I'm no longer in a period of healing. Okay. That's not really what I'm doing. What I'm doing is just actively maintaining my good energy now, which I'm very grateful to have gotten myself here. But I think it's important, to kind of mention the timelines. So basically, once the separation happened, I want to talk about how I was feeling at that time, because that is also really important to this story. So when my twin chose his karmic partner over me, the betrayal, that is how I felt. I felt really, really betrayed by someone who I loved deeply in my heart. And it was so painful. And, I don't think that it was just a normal pain. It was like, because I had been pulled into a lower, denser energy where everything was already feeling really, really bad, it felt like 100 times worse, this betrayal. Okay. And I was completely destabilized. It literally felt like, we were in kind of like an intense situation. It's like almost like this intense competitive situation or trying to run away from danger almost. And basically in this whole, scenario of like just this intensity, my twin basically chose to like push me in front of a train almost to save himself and like escape to safety. Like I'm just trying to paint a picture for you guys. Okay. So, and I was kind of like mangled by the train. feeling super hurt and betrayed at the same time, completely heartbroken that my twin would do this to me. So I'm like mangled, emotionally, energetically, like completely destabilized, just crushed, not able to function normally at all. So that is how I was feeling. But then at the same time, it's almost like I became hyper aware of like the situation that I was in and what I was going through. And I knew like almost immediately that the way that I'm feeling right now, despite how horrendous it is, that I had to figure out a way to get myself up and heal. It's like that person who like gets run over by a car or hit by a train and you're in the middle of nowhere by yourself, but you kind of just have to like drag yourself to safety and heal your wounds and pick yourself up so that you can move on with your life and not allow this event to completely destroy you. That's literally how I was feeling. And I knew that if I had stayed feeling the way that I was feeling, that I literally would have no chance whatsoever about, reconciling with my twin, which was something that I deeply still desired to do at that time. Or even have like a new healthy relationship with someone else. Like I was acutely aware of the fact that I was in a really, really, really bad mental and emotional state and that this wasn't normal. Okay. And so I had to get myself really like back to feeling completely normal and happy and stable again before I would be able to like successfully engage in a healthy relationship with anyone. Right. And so that was like the motivating force for me to really dive into my healing, because that was the desire that drove me to even trying to engage with my twin again in the first place, was that I felt like in my heart, he was my person and we were meant to be together. And so that being the driving desire of, wanting to have like a healthy, pure love relationship, I knew that you can't have that if you are completely like destabilized mentally and emotionally and like not able to function well. So, I knew where I was energetically. I knew where I was. I knew that I was in a really, really bad place. And the interesting thing is that I was aware of, where I was in terms of my state of being. And I started reading about, like a lot of this like manifestation stuff and even like twin flame journey stuff. They will tell you that, once you do all your healing, that it heals your twin as well. And, on the manifestation side of things, they talk about how like, your inner change produces an outer change, which is true, but it doesn't necessarily change other people. It actually just changes who you are and how you respond to those people. Okay. And so this is how your circumstances and your dynamics actually change in the outer reality, is because you have changed. So the world responds to you differently and you also respond to the world differently. Okay. So this notion that people peddle in the twin flame community that you have to do all your healing, and that it heals your twin as well. It's not true. Okay. Because I can tell you guys, I've done all the energy work. Okay. I'm fully healed from all of these things that have happened. I feel nothing anymore. I feel good. I feel happy. I feel free. My twin is still struggling though. Okay. So he did not automatically, follow me, even if we do have energetic connections, which I will talk about in other episodes. That was sort of confirmed for me. The work that you do on yourself doesn't automatically translate to your twin because they are still their own separate person. Okay. So that was something also that I wanted to point out. But basically, while I was extremely deep in my suffering, my twin had ran off to have a really, really bad toxic relationship with his karmic partner. And I also knew that for my twin to have made the choice that he made, he would regret it. It's like I immediately knew that was not the right decision for him to make. I knew that he was going to regret it. But I also knew that for him to have made that choice, that he was also in an extremely, extremely low vibration, and that he was also controlled by fear. Okay. And so, I mentioned how at this period of time, once the separation was triggered, it was almost like my third eye opened. And I don't really like to call it a third eye awakening, but that's the only way that I can describe it, because it's like my perception of reality was altered, where I was able to just like see and know things. I could just feel the truth behind everything. I just knew why people were doing what they were doing. Like I understood the driving forces and factors behind all of the goings on in the world. And like I could look at people on social media and I could feel their reality while I was like watching their video or looking at their pictures. And so I also would have this like instantaneous knowing about, why my twin was doing what he was doing. I was able to read the energy of the karmic as well in that way. So I had these like very strong knowings inside of me, right? And so what ended up happening was that, because I was becoming aware of like the energetic side of the world, essentially, I knew from all of these revelations and all these downloads and all of the information that I was, consuming online, that I had some subconscious patterning, energetic patterning that needed to be healed and cleared out. Okay. Because for me to have been dragged so low, to be feeling the way that I was feeling, and to be involved in the, events that unfolded, like I wasn't in a good place for me to have been in that type of situation. So I knew that there were things that I needed to do on myself, like to heal myself and fix myself, get myself to a better place, feel more stable, etc. And so I just became like absolutely desperate to find a way to heal myself, because I'm telling you guys, the suffering that I was experiencing was intense. Okay. And I know that there are other people who are listening to this who, you guys are also on a twin flame journey. Like, it's like, I don't know how to explain the intensity of the suffering. Okay. It's like, I was extremely unstable. I was so unstable. Like I spent most of my days like just crying and feeling absolutely horrible. Okay. I could not focus at all. I was barely able to get my work done. Like I really honestly was just consumed with just trying to feel okay. Okay. I spent most of my days, lying in bed, crying, consoling myself. My whole body would shake sometimes. Okay. Just like, it was like I was just in such intense like fear, and it was horrible. It was like almost like I was coming out of a drug addiction or something. It was really, really bad. Okay. So I would have just like, intense feelings of fear. I would have terrible like triggers. I would have these like really bad emotional triggers if I would think about certain things. And then it just got 10 million times worse, because shortly before the breakup between my twin and I found out who the karmic was because I saw her name on his phone. And so I found her on Facebook, and then I also found her on Instagram. And then as soon as I started creeping her on Instagram, I literally started spiraling, okay? Because basically what she had done was she had like posted a picture of herself in his house. And I knew that she did that, kind of like taunting me, basically, like, oh, haha, he's mine, So that just absolutely sent me spiraling, you guys. I would just like shake with fear when I would look at her page. I was like obsessively stalking her. Like it was just crazy. And it's interesting because I don't think that I mentioned this in like maybe the part 1 of this series, where I kind of talk about my relationships before my my twin flame awakening and stuff, where in my very first relationship, this dynamic of me being left for someone else and then having a lot of fear and anxiety and like obsession over the other party and like stalking and stuff, that actually has happened to me in the past. Okay. So it's almost like I was having a deja vu experience, but it was like, it felt 10 million times worse. And it felt like, why is this happening to me? And like, why is this happening to me again? it was like unbelievable to me that I was in this situation. It was so weird and so confusing to me. But at the same time, I was having all of these revelations that were being revealed about, you're in a low vibration, you're in a low reality, you're in a low energy. You got to pull yourself out of here. And the only way you're going to do it is from within. So it's almost like I kind of knew, what was going on and why it was happening. But, I also just wanted to point out that like this pattern, this experience was kind of like a repeat of something that I had experienced before. But like I said, it's almost like it was 10 times worse on purpose. I don't know. Anyways, I started diving really deep into healing work, as well as like how to manifest a person, right? Because when you are kind of like immediately after your separation from your twin, you are just feeling like all you want is to have your twin back, because you feel like that would alleviate your suffering and like make you happy again. But the whole point of this journey is to learn how to detach yourself from needing anything outside of you in order to like feel happy or be fulfilled or be stable, right? So anyways, the point is I was diving deep into that stuff, okay? And I want to give some credit and some shout out to some of the teachers that really helped me on my healing journey, because without these people, I honestly don't know what I would have done, because it was, their techniques and their like knowledge and information, their videos of encouragement that really pulled me through that extremely, extremely difficult time. And I'm almost, getting a little bit emotional, like thinking about this, because I was really fighting for my life, you guys, I was fighting for my life at that time, like mentally and emotionally. So I need to give a shout out to Agnes Vivarelli, number one. I really dived really deep into her meditations, her self-love meditations, her Ho'oponopono meditations, sending love to your specific person, visualizing certain outcomes with your specific person. And, Agnes doesn't actually talk about anything twin flames. She just talks about, how to manifest a specific person and learning how to love unconditionally, love without needing, that being in that feeling of needing anything in return. And so I, again, in the very beginning of my twin flame awakening, I wasn't even aware of anything twin flames. Okay. That started to come after for me. So the people who I'm going to mention, actually, none of them talk about twin flames. They kind of just talk about manifesting a specific person or manifesting a healthy relationship and whatever, right? And I do have to say that their information has been a lot more helpful to me than any twin flame stuff that I've come across, okay? And this is no disrespect to the spiritual community or the twin flame community. I'm just being completely honest here. So Agnes is number one. Highly recommend her. Links will be below to her stuff. The second person who I have to give, major kudos to for really helping me during this time was Dylan James. Absolutely love his stuff. I also think it's so interesting that, he is like a gay man, and he talks about like manifesting a specific person in a relationship. And, he is very open about his own relationship and the struggles that they've gone through as well. So yeah, like his stuff really helped me. In particular, all of his pep talks and his subliminal affirmations, okay? Like the sleep affirmations that he does. I've made my own custom ones that are based off of his tracks, okay? And it was basically like that format that I came across from him and his platform that gave me the idea that, okay, this is what you actually need to do. Because essentially what happened was I was initially watching content from Agnes and doing her meditations, her self-love meditations, just kind of helping to soothe myself and calm myself down and feel better. And then when I came across Dylan's content, he almost kind of was doing the same thing, but he would just make them like 8-hour long affirmations that you sleep to. And I'm just like, duh, like this is basically the same thing as doing a meditation, but just you're doing it while you're sleeping. You're reprogramming your subconscious while you're sleeping. So I took that idea and I ran with it crazy, because again, remember you guys, I was deep in suffering. And so I started recording my own custom affirmation tracks that were based on the affirmations that were said in Agnes's meditations, in Dylan's, subliminal tracks and stuff. And I kind of created my own thing that was working for me. And that was healing myself and alleviating my suffering, creating a new self-concept, which to my third person that I have to give credit to is Shelly Bullard, okay? Again, she's not someone who talks about anything twin flames. She talks about manifesting relationships, manifesting money, just manifesting anything, right? And the thing that I love about all of these people is that they're not false prophets, okay? And that is because all of the things that they teach you how to do, they have done it themselves, okay? So all of these people are in happy, healthy relationships. They're all living abundantly. They are living what they are preaching. And I think that that is extremely important when you're looking for people, like, where do you learn from? Who is a false prophet and who is, separating the wheat from the chaff? It's the people who are actually living the results of what they're preaching that I personally gravitate towards, because I know what you're doing is working, okay? It's effective. And I do have to say that even though I'm not in union with my twin flame, all of the material that I consumed and practiced from all of these people helped to transform my life immensely. As I said, I am completely healed from all of the things that have happened between me and my twin. And I was able to do that by combining all of the knowledge and information that these people share on their platforms. So again, kudos to them. But, Shelly, one of the things that she talks about a lot is, creating a new self-concept and, being in the feeling of the wish fulfilled and just kind of staying in that. And so combining that knowledge with Dylan James's strategy of listening to affirmations while you sleep, I kind of just made this technique for myself of, creating these custom tracks that were really, really effective in hammering into my subconscious mind, new beliefs and new feelings that completely transformed who I am. So I was deep in that, throughout my healing period. It took me probably a good 6 or 7 months from when the separation actually happened to when I really started creating my, custom healing tracks and figuring out what works and what doesn't work, and really, really stabilizing myself from what I had created. And, there were periods where I would have to listen to these affirmations every single day throughout the whole day, almost 24 hours a day, because that is just how badly unstable that I was. And, Dylan also talks about this, the importance of stabilizing your nervous system and just getting into a good, healthy, stable overall state where you're feeling good. So, before you go to manifest something, you need to take care of yourself, right? You need to be in a good place. And I knew that. I was aware of that, like I said, and this is why I was so desperate for whatever I could find that would help me to heal. But while all of that was going on, again, as I mentioned, Agnes, Dylan, and Shelly, they are manifestation relationship coaches. That's kind of their niche, but they are not really spiritual teachers, I would say. They are, right? But they have their niche in terms of manifestation. But it's interesting because, again, they don't necessarily really talk about spiritual awakening or a lot of this new agey type of stuff that you eventually fall into, especially if you're on a twin flame journey. But for me, while I was going through all of this, I was also having this really, really deep inner knowing that, this is it. This is what you came to Earth for. Now is the time to show what you're made of, spiritually speaking. You know what I mean? It's you cannot allow this situation to break you, because this is actually the situation that is supposed to make you and to show what you're made of, spiritually speaking. So if you allow this experience to completely destroy you and leave you just, weak and broken, that shows spiritually, the spirit that is animating my body is weak, And so it's like, I just knew, like, I have to pull myself up. Like, I have to pull myself up for myself. I have to pull myself up for my twin. I have to pull myself up for humanity. I cannot allow myself to just sink down and stay stuck here. That was such a big knowing within me during, the depths of my suffering. It's just like I really felt activated. I felt spiritually activated. I felt like finally all of the feelings that I was having from when I was a child about, who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing on earth and how I'm going to be able to do those things. It's almost like it all became clear to me from this experience because my eyes were opened to the non-physical world of this reality and how so much of what we're experiencing is a reflection of our own state of being, right? And so I had to shift myself out of this very low, struggly state of being into a way, way higher state of being. And so it all made sense. It's like you can actually project and materialize your own outcomes, but you have to gain control of your own energy, stabilize your vessel, and then learn how to work with, manipulating energy towards the outcomes that you're trying to produce. So, these were kind of like the big theme around my separation initially, the bulk of my separation as well. So now one of the things that I also want to talk about in this episode is this whole concept of alien love bite. Okay. And for those of you who are not familiar with this, okay, there are some people who believe in this concept about aliens interfering in human love relationships, particularly around humans that are abductees of aliens, like gray aliens and that sort of thing. And essentially, like, what they believe is that, these humans are kind of like switched on and off to almost like create emotional suffering that it's either the aliens are feeding off of this energy or something along those lines. It's almost like a means of controlling them. And well, for me, what I have to say about that is I do believe that there are definitely spiritual elements going on Earth, okay, like negative elements. I do feel that there are some negative elements that are attached, like negative spiritual elements that are attached to my experience, because, as I have been trying to really hone in on, is that the way that I was feeling, how bad I was feeling, and even how bad I know my twin was feeling as well, it was just not normal. There was honestly something really, really abnormal about what I was experiencing. And then during my separation as well, especially like immediately after my twin had cut me off and I was just kind of like, whoa, like what the hell is going on here? And I just became so destabilized. I started having like really, really bad negative intrusive thoughts. I would have like really, really intense, fearful thoughts about the karmic getting pregnant and them having a kid together. And just like, it would like consume my mind to the point where I couldn't focus. And I knew that those thoughts were not coming from my own mind, because I would actually be actively pushing them out of my mind when they were coming in. So it wasn't normal, and it really felt like I was in just like this really, really dark, almost alternate reality. There was just like this dark cloud feeling almost over my mind. And I think I mentioned this as well in the last episode, that this whole alternate reality concept, like I really was not in a normal reality for myself. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because I started seeing people who I've never seen before. And it's almost like I had no idea that these people even existed because they don't live in my normal frequency band of reality. So I could maybe have passed by these people on the street before, but like I would have never noticed them. But I'm telling you, it's it's an alternate reality, okay? Like there's different frequencies of reality. We're not all living on the same version of Earth. That I know that from my experience, 100% for sure, okay? And it's interesting because my twin and his karmics and we all live very close to each other, okay? Like my twin's second karmic partner after he left the first one, she actually is like my neighbor. She lives in the building like right beside me, basically. But I've never seen this girl before since I've lived here, okay? Never seen her around, never run into her, nothing, okay? Even my twin right now, I literally do not ever see him. I don't ever run into him. And that's because we're not really in the same frequency of reality, you know? And so, yeah, like, especially once I really started like doing my healing and stuff and kind of pulling myself up, I would never run into these people. We weren't in the same reality anymore. Meanwhile, like when I was first dating my twin, obviously, you know, we encountered each other on the bus. And then we worked together. Like, even after we broke up and stuff, I would still see him around. I could run into him on the street. Like it wasn't totally this like vast separation, you know? But I do feel that he was like pulled into a more dense reality. I was pulled into a dense reality as well. And then once I started doing my healing and stuff, like our paths just, you know, weren't crossing anymore. And so, yeah, I do feel like these people are in an alternate version of Earth. I've also mentioned how, you know, there were other people that I was meeting, like people who kind of became my friends, and I'm doing air quotations, like people that I kind of just met randomly, some of them. There was a guy actually that I met in my building during the time that I was seeing my twin, before the separation happened. And he is another person who's part of this like alternate lower reality. But he and I were kind of close for a while. Like I would see him all the time. And he's somebody who I kind of had like a brief romantic interaction with during the time that I was seeing my twin as well. But how can I even explain it? Again, now that I'm fully healed and I'm just like in a completely different reality, never see this person. He lives in my building. We don't run into each other. Nothing. It's very weird. Like for me, that's very weird. It's like, you know, I could see this person, we would interact, I could run into you on the street. Once I really aggressively started doing work on myself, never see these people anymore. Don't run into them. And not only that, but it's almost like I can't even talk to them anymore because I met other people through this person as well. And it's like I was acutely aware at the time that, yeah, these people are part of this lower reality and I'm going to get myself out of here. But it's funny because now that I'm not in their frequency anymore, they can't really meet me. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's almost like they have too much fear and their vibration is too low for them to kind of meet me where I am. And so the few times that I've tried to even like interact with some of these people, I can see that their programming and their energy vibration is just not allowing them to interact with me in a normal way. So, you know, it just is what it is. And that's not to say that like you can't interact with these people anymore because you're not in the same vibration as them. It's just that your lives are not intertwined as much. Like, you know, they're not in your reality. I'm not in their reality. The only way for us to really see each other is if that's something that we actively, you know, made happen. And that is basically the only way that I even see my twin now. Is like, if I intentionally try to see him, then yes, I will see him. But otherwise, I don't see you around. You don't see me around. We're not in the same reality. You know, he's in a much more dense reality than I am. And so we don't really cross paths. But yeah, I think it's interesting that the low vibrational reality that these people are in, which feels normal for them, okay? It was not normal for me. And again, I could see that these people also like were abnormal and they were very like low vibrational and operating from a lot of fear. But it was normal for them because I actually feel that a lot of these people are born into that frequency of reality. So that is their baseline normal for the most part. Back to the alien love bite stuff again. So like I was saying, I think it's possible that, maybe like my twin's karmic partner, who is part of this like super low frequency reality, it's entirely possible that, she could have been put in my twin's path in order to basically drag him down, into this low level. That's possible. Like I said, I do feel that there is some sort of non-physical force that is interfering, but I don't know the full workings of it. But I do believe in that. Okay. I do believe that. I also know that I experienced like behaviors that were out of character for me, that I was engaging in, that I just couldn't control. It was like programs that was just running that I couldn't really control myself. I wouldn't want to do these things, but I would just do them. Like the guy who I mentioned that I met in my building, and I was kind of having romantic interactions with him. I didn't really want to be doing that, but it's like I couldn't control myself, and this is also something that my twin is experiencing right now, where he's not fully in control of his body, and he's just doing things that I know that he doesn't want to be doing. He's tends to be very reactive as well, and like just engaging in a lot of like very negative behaviors. And I do believe that definitely from a lot of the negative choices that he's made and things, perhaps that he was attacked or latched onto by, dark entities, dark thought forms, whatever you want to call it. I do absolutely believe that he has been attacked and compromised in some way, and that he kind of is just like struggling to be normal and be who he wants to be and do the things that he wants to do. But because he's not spiritually aware in the same way that I am, he's not understanding like the non-physical components that are impacting him. And, I can see that. So again, is it aliens that are orchestrating these things? It's possible. It's definitely possible. I believe that is possible. But I do feel there is some kind of dark force operating that are, is it that they are destroying love relationships? I think they are maybe having an influence, to make that happen. But I also do feel that, humans, we are imprinted with these negative karmic patterning, right? And so my attraction to my twin, a lot of that has to do with my own karmic patterning from my parents. And his behaviors are also his own karmic imprints as well that need to be healed. So I feel that it's possible there are dark forces that play into that and make it, they exacerbate it essentially, because, we're not aware of our own nature. We're not in control of ourselves. And if there are dark forces that want to destroy humanity, which I do believe is a thing, they play on our weaknesses. They play on these karmic patternings. They can see future timelines. They know, they don't want love. They don't want harmony. They don't want peace. They don't want happiness for humanity. They want us to be broken, miserable, in fear, docile, and easy to control. And so I do believe that they will absolutely orchestrate events that will destabilize you and crush you internally, okay? So that your heart center is completely destroyed and you're not capable of having a healthy love relationship and really operating at your fullest capacity from a non-physical level as a human being, okay? Because our true power lies in our heart center. We are unaware of this. Most people are just living from their ego. They're living from their programs and their patterning, right? So they're not even thinking about any of this stuff. I feel that my experience forced me to wake up to the reality of this and to understand its influence on my life, on other people's lives, and so that I could really kind of like heal and regain control of myself. And so I'm grateful for that because it did allow me to really end my suffering. But either way, I think all of the things that, I've experienced, the things that I've seen, how terrible and extremely bad it was for me to be pulled into this abnormally low reality that, seems kind of normal for these other people who were a part of it. including my twin, I think it just shows how messed up humanity really is, And again, I do feel that it was abnormal for my twin as well, because he acknowledged that when I saw him, just before we started seeing each other again, before all the separation stuff happened, right? Like, he acknowledged this, he was feeling a lot of fear, right? And that fear was holding him back from us being able to have a healthy relationship together. And so there is an awareness there within him, but I don't think that, he's really diving deep into the stuff in the same way that I am. And he's kind of just living from the patterning and the imprints, He's not necessarily trying to understand, like, why am I feeling this way and how can I fix it, if that makes sense. It's kind of just like, I just got to keep trying to do what I want to do, not understanding that there is a force, literally, that is on you that you have to clear out. So that's kind of my thoughts on alien love bite, okay? I do believe that there are dark forces influencing humanity and affecting us in some way. The full inner workings of it, I'm not fully sure about, but I do believe in it. And whether those forces are, non-earth based in nature, it's 100% possible. Well, I shouldn't say 100%. It's entirely possible that, yes, these are, malevolent alien forces that want to take control of our planet, that want to subdue and subjugate humanity. 100% believe that. Okay, so now let's talk about contact with my twin during our separation, okay? So probably for the first year of our separation, and again, it's October 2023, we're still in separation. The separation, really was triggered around this time, maybe about a month earlier in 2021. Okay, so this is basically like 2 years of separation now. So I would reach out to my twin, from time to time during our separation. In the first year of our separation, especially, I was still really, really struggling, and I was still really healing. So I also was still experiencing my altered perception, or like my third eye awakening kind of experience, where I would like know why everything was happening or why he was doing what he was doing. But because I wasn't healed, I would still get triggered and I would still be like emotionally kind of affected by it. Okay. So if I would reach out to him and he would say something to me or something, like sometimes the things that he would say would be hurtful to me at that time because I wasn't healed. Okay. But there wasn't actually that much communication between us during this time. Okay. I did see him a few times, but I could also see that every time I saw him, he was still very deep in his own fear and, his own suffering. I could see that. There was actually a time, I want to say, when was that? Maybe like 8 or 9 months or so after our separation, where I met up with him. This was around April 2022. I met up with him for coffee. And what happened was a few days before that, he had texted me that, oh, did I see you like walking down the street? And I was like, oh, no, that actually wasn't me. Anyways, we had a brief exchange of like, oh, how are you? How are you? And then I reached out to him again a few days later. And he was responsive. So we were, making plans to just see each other and catch up over the weekend. And so I noticed that he was trying to get me to like come over to his house, and I didn't want to do that, okay? Because I will also say that since our separation, I have not had any kind of romantic or sexual engagements with my twin. It's, the boundaries have definitely been there from me. I don't even think that I've hugged him during this time. I honestly don't remember. But anyways, what ended up happening was that I rejected his offers to like go to his house, and I said, we can do coffee if you want us to meet up. So after I rejected his advances to come to his house, he called me and he was like, oh, I was just wondering like if, maybe we could actually do that coffee. And I said, sure. But I noticed that his voice was really like broken and, he just sounded really weak almost. So the day that I saw him, he was essentially telling me that he had broken up with the karmic and he was really, really struggling. And, he was trying to study for this exam and he couldn't focus. And I could just see, he was really, really suffering the same way that I was like suffering, right? He was struggling to deal with the attachment that he had, developed for her. So I could see that, and I sat with him and I was compassionate towards him and everything. And that, was kind of sort of the theme in our interactions with each other is sort of me being able to see that this person is still very deep in their own suffering, in their own emotional trauma. They're not aware of why they're experiencing what they're experiencing. And, even if maybe in his own times of contemplation or reflection, he knows that, he's made mistakes or whatever the case may be, like he's kind of still just operating from being in this low vibration and not feeling good. And, the same way that I was so aggressively consumed with just trying to feel okay, he's also still stuck in that. And, kind of going back to the whole alien love bite thing, I do feel that this is the agenda, is to make humanity just so low and feel so bad all the time that all we can do is run around and distract ourselves from the pain, or just, kind of consume ourselves with doing things to try to ease the pain. Because I feel like that is where my twin flame is and kind of has been stuck for a while. And for myself, I feel that I felt so bad that I couldn't not dive into my healing. I knew that distracting myself was not going to heal my suffering. I knew that rebounding with another guy was not going to heal my suffering. Like, my awakening was like, there is no way out for you if you don't do your healing. That's your only option. And so, for me, I really was forcefully ejected out of the matrix. And I do feel that for my twin, like maybe for him, because his default is to run away from his emotions and feeling bad, it's not his natural disposition to be like, oh my God, I'm not feeling good, I have to fix it, right? Especially if he is somebody who has been chronically feeling low for a very long time. It's not really going to be like at the forefront of your mind that you're not feeling okay and that you need to focus on feeling good. So either way, I think, I did see him a few times, but I could see in every interaction, whether it was seeing him in person or talking to him, on the phone or like via text messages or something, that, he just wasn't in a good place and he wasn't doing very well. And I'm going to talk about this in more detail when I speak about my twin flames karmic partners, but I do feel like this karmic that he left me for was really bad energy. And it's funny because one of our mutual friends actually said the same thing as well. And the karmic that he basically rebounded with after her, she also kind of has expressed the same thing, that, that girl, she just is not a good person, doesn't have a good energy. So I do feel that him being so deeply entrenched with her energetically, through sex, unprotected sex, he was taking on a lot of her low vibrational patterning, her negative energy. And so that affected him, and it made it really, really hard for him to detach himself from her as well. And even though it hurt me, obviously, that he abandoned me for her, again, I had my third eye open. I was fully aware of why everything was happening while it was happening. I knew that my twin flame unknowingly had become deeply attached to this person. I knew that the relationship between them wasn't going to be good. I knew that he was going to regret it. I knew that he was going to be struggling. I did have a lot of concerns about like, okay, even if my spirit is telling me this is my person and we're supposed to be together, that me healing myself probably wasn't going to automatically heal him. And I was concerned about, how would I help him to like get out of his suffering, right? I was waiting during my healing period to see like, would he just wake up as well and, start going into his healing as well? Like, I wasn't sure how all of this was meant to unfold, but either way, this is how things were unfolding. Okay. He was struggling with the karmic, trying to detach himself from her, struggling with that, being in these toxic relationship cycles with her. And either way, all of the times that we communicated and stuff, as much compassion as I had for him, I knew that I really wouldn't even be of any help to him until I was fully stable myself and not needing anything from him. And so I really just, for the most part, tried my best to focus on my healing and stabilizing myself. I was definitely still really invested, in our union. I was still stalking the karmic a lot, to see if they had broken up. And I was definitely actively trying to manifest a breakup between them, which did end up happening. But, that's an aside. But, ultimately, doing the work to really dive deep into my healing, it allowed me to feel better and better over time, which I'm really grateful for. I felt less triggered by my twin over time, less hurt by all of the choices he was making or things that he would say. None of it was bothering me anymore. And, I was able to see that regardless of how I felt about him and, whatever connection I felt I had to him, that, ultimately he is still his own person. He's on his own journey. And I have to understand that and respect that and, be mindful of that in my dealings with him. And so, again, I'll go another episode, more specifically about my twin and everything that has happened with him and what he's going through and stuff like that. But, this understanding that your twin is their own person and they're going through their own stuff as well. And a lot of it, it doesn't have anything to do with you because they are just operating from their own imprints, their own programming. And so a lot of times these people are also very damaged and fragile. Okay, they're wounded. So when they are reacting to you negatively or harshly or doing things that hurt your feelings, blocking you or whatever the case may be, just know that anyone who is doing things like that, they are suffering. Okay, they're suffering. They're wounded, they're hurt, their inner child doesn't feel safe and they're reacting from those feelings. So sometimes I forget about that when I'm, dealing with my twin, but I've actually have kind of decided that I'm not going to like engage him in any kind of interactions because I can still see that, I am triggering to him, even if he is no longer triggering to me because I've healed, right? So what else do I want to say here? So, basically through this whole healing journey that I went on, since our separation was triggered, I really confirmed like what was being imparted to me through my spiritual awakening, my third eye opening and everything like that, all of the knowings and the downloads, like it all became clear to me and everything was really confirmed throughout this whole period. Again, we'll go more into like, the dynamics with the karmic and all of the revelations that came out of that. But even just this knowing and understanding about the nature of reality and how, we're all living in our own hologram that is based on, our frequency, vibration, the programs running in our subconscious, how we feel and stuff, and me doing the work to change my dominant feeling state shifted me into a new reality where on the surface, a lot of stuff looks the same, but it all feels completely different. And the way that my life unfolds now is, much different and much better. So really the spiritual awakening and the integrating of the knowledge that was imparted on me really did help me to empower myself and take myself to a better place. And I'm grateful for that. And like I said, all of this was confirmed for me by, working with affirmations to heal and clear out all of the dense energies and the negative emotions from my subconscious. And the thing is that, because this breakup and everything that happened was kind of the trigger for my spiritual awakening, I really stayed hyper aware of myself and how I was feeling as I was shifting on a day-to-day and moment-to-moment basis, okay? As well as how things were shifting and changing around me and my outer reality as well. But it was so interesting because since I was shifting so aggressively, like listening to these affirmations basically like 24 hours a day almost, sometimes it would literally feel like years were passing by each day I would wake up. It was so strange, but it's almost like this feeling of being, shifting realities. It's like I was shifting so rapidly that it would almost feel like years were passing by. And I think it's because the amount of energy that I was clearing out of my system, I was doing it so fast that it felt like if I wasn't doing any active energy healing on myself, it probably would have taken years for this energy to clear out of my system. But, since I was aggressively clearing out this energy, using affirmations and stuff, it's like I would just feel like years had passed, because almost that's how it feels when I think back to all of the terrible things that happened and how deeply hurt I was. It doesn't feel like this happened 2 years ago. It almost feels like this happened 5 or 6 years ago, or maybe even more, like 10 years ago. But this is only 2 years ago that this stuff happened. And, the emotional imprint was very severe. And I know that most people are not capable of healing from this type of trauma as quickly as I have, For some people, maybe they might think, oh my God, like 2 years to get over a breakup, that's a long time. But 2 years to get over your twin flame awakening, okay, when most people are struggling with this for years and years and years, I think I'm doing pretty good, okay? But either way, I'm extremely grateful that I found, really easy and effective healing modalities, because I was seriously suffering for a while, okay? I was in the depths of my suffering, and the benefits of my work, they've paid off, and I'm in a much better place now. I'm grateful for that. My life is really peaceful. It's easy. It's calm. I feel good all the time. And like I said before, I don't feel any negative emotions towards my twin or the karmics or anything that happened really. I finally feel free from all of those negative emotions and all of that baggage. And I'm grateful for that, okay? And the only way that you are going to come out of whatever emotional suffering that you are experiencing right now, if you're listening to this and you're deep in your twin flame journey, maybe you're newly separated or whatever, you have to do energy work, okay? The reason why so many people stay stuck pining over their twin and just feeling sad and feeling low and wondering and waiting is because they're not shifting energetically. They're staying in that same low state, that sad state, for years and years and years and years and years on end, waiting for their twin to wake up and saying, oh, my twin isn't healing, or my twin isn't doing this and that. Your twin is their own person, okay? You have to do energy work on yourself for you to feel okay, for you to feel free, for you to feel stable, for you to feel sovereign in your energy again, okay? Every human being is supposed to be energetically sovereign. We're not supposed to be depending on anything or anyone outside of ourselves for our emotional fulfillment and happiness. Those outer attachments is what leads to the suffering. And this is a major part of the learning and understanding that is meant to come out of these experiences. It's like the spiritual journey is understanding, the nature of reality, the nature of suffering, how to heal yourself and release yourself from suffering ever again by not having any energetic attachments to anything. So even though I still love my twin in my heart unconditionally, I no longer feel bad or feel like I miss him or I don't feel anything negative towards him. You know, it's almost like I've gotten to a place of neutrality. But for me to get there, I really had to work on myself energetically, very aggressively. Okay. So this is a spiritual game. Okay. And all of the experiences that we are having in our lives, you know, they are meant to help you advance and evolve your way of thinking and being from looking at the world purely as physical and, you know, everything being separate from you, and understanding some of the deeper layers of this reality and really how to navigate it for your highest good. So even though what I've gone through and what I've experienced was horrendous, you know, I do believe that you choose, right? We are choosing our lives. We choose what we're going to experience before we come here. You know, we know these things, and we believe that we are strong enough to handle these things. At least that's what I know for myself. And I do believe that my spirit knew this. And that is also why I was so adamant with myself that, you know, you got to get up, like you got to heal yourself. You're not going to stay here. I fully understood, you know, this is non-physical stuff going on. And I needed that really rude punch in the face to realize that, because that is where our true power as humans lies. It's understanding our energetic nature, you know, our non-physical makeup, and how to maneuver that and manipulate that for our highest good individually and collectively. And so, you know, I look at my twin now as almost like a blessing, because like he helped me by everything that happened to become the version of myself that I am today, which is someone who is no longer, you know, emotionally suffering or feeling bad or needing to run around and distract myself from pain or use things outside of myself to make myself feel good. You know, I now fully understand the importance of controlling my own energy, being stable and sovereign within myself. And if I'm not in that state, okay, I need to figure out how to get myself into that state. Okay, so if you're listening to this and you're still really, really struggling, go and listen to my Ascension program, okay? Because that is basically the bulk of the affirmations that I was doing that really, really did the most work for me in terms of pulling myself to where I am now. And this is where I want everyone to be. You know, this is where I want my twin to be as well, so we can love each other unconditionally without, you know, control and fear and attachments. I wish everyone could join me here, but I've also had to accept that everyone is on their own journey, and you know, we can't force people to move at our pace, unfortunately. And this doesn't only apply to my twin. This also applies to like my friends, my family as well. You know, I'm sure that people who are also on a spiritual journey that are listening to this, you know, you would have gone through these feelings of wanting to share all this information with your friends and family so that you guys could all go on this journey together. But, you know, you eventually realize that they're just not there with you, and that's okay. And you have to accept that, right? So that was something that was tough for me, but that is just part of this earth experience. So I think that's all I have for this episode. Thank you guys so much, as always, for listening. Please feel free to leave your questions, comments, and stay tuned for part 5, okay? I was originally going to do part 5 as talking about my twin flames karmic partners, but I'm actually, before I do that, I'm going to talk about my experience with tarot on my twin flame journey, because that is also another interesting component to this. And a lot of the things that were revealed in my tarot readings were actually basically confirmed by the conversations that I had with my twin flames, one of my twin flames karmic partners. So I think I'm going to do them in the reverse order. And then the last episode, which will be part 7, I'll just kind of talk about where I am now, you know, maybe trying to help heal my twin, and, you know, hopefully grounding my union timeline. So that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you guys in the next episode.